Welcome to the Goffstown School Board meeting. I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. If you can rise and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. So before we start into the rest of our meeting, we're going to have a presentation by Maple Avenue. Mr. Demers, you want to come on up?
Long day. Okay. So we're here to do a presentation on our visual arts program at Maple Ave. So we have our wonderful visual arts teacher, Jessica Gray, here with us. And we also have invited, I just want to make sure I have all their names correctly and I don't leave anyone out. We have some wonderful students from our 4th grade here to help us out this evening. So we have Ezekiel. Ezekiel, give us a wave. Excellent. We have Macy. Thank you, Macy. We have Ben with us. Excellent. Shaylin and Dawson and Amelia. Excellent. So without further ado, I'm going to run the presentation while Miss Gray and our students give the presentation.
Great, thank you.
All right. Good evening. I am Jessica Gray, the art teacher and STEAM teacher at Maple Ave Elementary School. Tonight, I'm excited to share how art at Maple Ave impacts community in various ways. What would be a better way to share art than creating it? So tonight, we're going to be creating a tree, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. So first, I wanted to point out that the slides have artwork that's made by 4th grade. This is artwork that they do when we create the yearbooks. All right. Slide. Thank you. All right, so our amazing artists are here tonight, and they'll assist us in sharing materials and creating a tree. Please take a few pieces from the bins and add them to the tree, and you're going to pass it to the next person as the slides, as I talk. So our goal tonight is to create a unique community tree by the end of the presentation. So the bins can stay right at their spot, and you can just take the goodies out of them. Awesome, thank you. All right, slide. So art makes learning fun, where imagination comes to life, encourages self-expression and communication, enhances social emotional learning, develops problem-solving skills, and concentration and attention to detail. Each year, I encourage students, all students, to create a small piece of art that will combine into a large piece, a collaborative work of art. Typically, our school mascot, Cubby, is featured, helping students foster the sense of community. This activity provides a wonderful opportunity for students to observe and identify similarities and differences. Engaging in the community with art beyond the school is vital. Students create artworks and displayed them at local nursing homes. Yearbooks also are done by students as well. They're designed by 4th grade, and the whole school votes on the covers of the yearbook. Paint night is also a fun way to involve families and engage in the art making process. We have the opportunity to share student works of art in a gallery setting. We've had artwork displayed at Red River Theater and the Concord Library during Youth Art Month. Art and Literature Night is a fun way to share artwork with families, while students can proudly display their creations and engage in conversations about their work. I teach a monthly student photographer program to 48 students, with 2 students from each classroom participating. Thanks to the generous support from the PFT, each classroom has been provided with a shared student camera. This allows students to capture all the exciting activities in their classroom, and these photos are used to create the yearbook. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. Mr. Lindano and I have organized a special activity called Process Art for 3rd graders in place of Artist in Residence program. To ensure this extensive, fun, and safe, engaging activity, we are supported by 3rd grade parent volunteers. STEAM. STEAM is a program that features the Lego We Do kits, which on rotation among classes to each and every student, each and every class, to tackle the challenging robotic builds. This year, an Eagle Scout, Sam Crissa, generously donated a STEAM cart equipped with bee-bots and STEAM activities. It was initially launched in the STEAM program, and the cart is now available to all staff and in their classrooms to enhance learning. Parent volunteers also assist in the challenging robotic builds. All right, music and art collaborate several times a year. For the holiday concert, 4th grade creates large props. This year we also created hats as well. The Memorial Day, for Memorial Day, oh my goodness, sorry. Okay. For Memorial Day, we worked together to create large outdoor pieces and garden boxes, which are then gifted to retiring staff. Okay. Thank you. It's a little different having a microphone during the day. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here we are with a unique community tree that reflects a vibrant, playful spirit of the Maple Avenue. The tree is a testament to our collaborative effort and beauty we have created when we come together. I leave you with a quote. Marion Wright Elderman says, "Education is for improving the lives of others, for leaving your community and world better than you found it." Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we get to keep the tree? Or would you like to bring it back to school tomorrow?
Well, the kids are really interested in what's going to happen with the tree, so I would like to photo it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your help.
Does anybody have any questions? You have to stick your hand out so I can see you. Anybody? Questions
No questions?
for the kids? Go ahead, Ginny.
I'd like to know what the kids' favorite projects are in the art class.
Ooh, good question. What are your favorite projects in art? Go ahead, would you like to start?
I would say probably doing the yarn every year because I make new things every year and I really just like creating stuff.
Excellent, thank you.
Good answer.
Process art? Yeah, we did process art one year in the cafeteria and last year. Now that we have a classroom, we did it in the classroom. Do you have one, Dawson?
I like the process art.
Yeah, process art is a lot of fun.
Clay. He said he likes doing clay. Yep.
I like designing the yearbooks. I like doing the yarn art.
Well, thank you so much
one down. That wasn't piling them all on one kid.
You forgot your button.
I know. Oh, yeah. Great idea.
All right, so we're going to continue. Are there correspondence, Brian?
We do a few things for the board this evening. In the correspondence folder, we have a wonderful card from the incredibly talented Lisa Johnson, who is making her way out of the theater, thanking the board. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. And a couple other things for the board. We have a list of questions that Mr. Gross sent to Secretary Dave Scanlon at the, up at the state from the Secretary of State's office, and this is in relation to Senate Bill 297 and the ongoing discussions we've had about the public risk pools. That's number one. Number two, I'm sharing a letter that the New Boston School Board sent to Senator Ricciardi, and this is regarding House Bill 675, which is the local tax cap on all school districts. So I wanted to share that correspondence with you. And lastly, there's a new community effort in Pinardville that is associated with the Mass Road Community Market, and they're forming a meal kit program for families in need. So families are able to come to Jacques' Flower Shop in Pinardville and pick up meal kits. I believe it's on Friday evenings. So there's information about that. If anyone's interested that hears me talking about this, I'd be happy to send you what information I have. Or the press release is from Robert Fisher from Mast Road Community Market. So they're looking to start a new support to families, and I wanted to share that with the board.
All right, thank you, Brian. So we'll have a quick good news commendations. We'll do a full one at the next board meeting. Brady, do you have anything you'd like to add tonight? No? Okay, that's fine. Any board members have any? Ginny, go ahead.
I would like to make a commendation to Maple Ave PFT for their readathon program that they had. Reading supports our education process here in Goffstown. Reading helps children with reading across the entire curriculum. So thank you to them for encouraging kids to read.
Great, thank you, Ginny. Anyone else, board members? Wendy, go ahead.
Would it be okay if I just talk about what Ginny just talked about?
Yeah.
So she just talked about the readathon. I did want to let you know that the school read over 80,000 minutes and raised over 20,000, and the PFT is going to profit over $15,000 from that amazing readathon. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of context with numbers. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, moving on, is there public comment tonight? Hi, come on to the microphone. Just state your name and address for the record. We ask that your comment, the comment is less than 3 minutes, and it's not a question and answer dialogue.
Okay,
Go
so my
ahead.
name is Becky, and I live at Mountain Ash Lane in Goffstown, New Hampshire. I don't public speak, so forgive me if I am a little bit off. So I am a local coordinator for EF Education First, the exchange student program. And typically, Goffstown is very gracious and always gives us 5 spots to place exchange students. And this particular year, I'm just asking if the school board could make a modification for 1 student for the next school year. We had a family who had expressed interest, but due to some illness in the family, they were slowly working on their application. And it was a family decision to choose a student. There's thousands of profiles to go through, so they wanted to choose the right one. It's their daughter's last year in high school next year, and she wanted to have a student with her. And the daughter maintains a 3.8, her mom said. In school, she plays sports year-round, so it's a good student at Goffstown High School. And Goffstown has always been so supportive of our students. I think they've gotten 2 or 3 banners over the last few years just about their ability to offer us these seats to our students. And I just wanted to say that, I just wanted to say that through our exchange program, it enhances our school's reputation, and it attracts families to also to share in some of the same opportunities of that first hands-on experience to culture. And then the other part of it is the awareness, the invaluable exposure that it brings to our community, and the global citizenship that it brings everybody together. It contributes a diverse perspective. It broadens our educational experiences and it creates rich discussions amongst our young population. And these kids come here to represent their countries as well and to teach us about their cultures and their countries and what we can learn from them. I've had 5 in my home, and I can tell you my kids can say quite a few different words in different languages, and they still cook meals from their countries. And last year I sat at a lot of our students that come here and watch them play sports, and they've been recognized on the system. These are just not relationships that are formed in 10 months. The impact of these relationships lasts long beyond the 10 months. And between February and March, I was in constant communication with the school about how many spots were left because I had already placed 4. And on March 12th, I was told there was 1 more spot left. And I told my family, you need to get your application in. And the dad came home from traveling, and they chose the family together, and I submitted the application right away, only to be told that the last seat had been taken from another agency. So on behalf of the family, who is now one of the members is very sick, asked me if I could come and advocate and support them in allowing them just 1 spot for this year so that their daughter gets that opportunity to have a student from Norway in her home.
All right, thank you, Becky. The board will discuss this later on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good job talking. Anyone else, public comment? Come on down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you can use that microphone. You have to state your name and address.
I'm just going to raise this up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Brian Templeton, 176 Kennedy Hill Road. I'd like to take this time to congratulate the 3 new members of the board, my opponents, Vanessa, Laura, and Shane, who were elected a few weeks back and ready for her re-election. The voters spoke, and here we are. You're over there, and I'm over here. And of course, I wish it was the other way around, but like I said, the voters have spoken, and I feel that we as Americans are truly blessed and privileged to live in a constitutional democracy, and this is something I don't take for granted. For those of you who may not know, I am the citizen who brought forward the petition which ultimately became warrant Article 4 on the ballot of our recent election. At the last school board meeting, in regards to the check register being put on the site, Superintendent Balke stated that, and I quote, "I don't know what people think they're going to get out of this." Now, I think I understand what he meant. He was asking what people were hoping to do with the information that they can glean from the register. And that, of course, remains to be seen. But what I'd like to point out here is this. We who support this action, what we initially expect to get out of this is the district and the school board saying to us, we know your taxes continue to go up. We feel your pain and want to thank you for your continued support. So we wish to be as transparent as we can possibly be to give you absolute assurance that we don't take it for granted. Yes, there are other ways to access information from the site, but if this makes it easier and will help give you peace of mind, then we're all for it. This was my main motivation for bringing this forward to the district, school board, and the town of Goffstown. There's one other thing I'd like to address. A comment was made by a member of this board at the last meeting, and I quote, "The warrant article was very confusing and that people didn't know what they were voting on." And as the author of the petition, I kind of take offense to that. Creating confusion was certainly not my intent, and during all the discussion and debate pertaining to this article, whether by this board or by the townspeople at the deliberative session, not one person said they were confused as to what this article was asking for or what its intent was. If somebody was confused, well, then at that time, they needed to get the clarification before the election. To say that people didn't know what they were voting for after the article has passed, in my opinion, is kind of disrespectful to the voters who ultimately said, we want this. Members of the school board, our democratic system has been properly utilized. The process was played out and the article passed. The voters have spoken. I'm of the opinion that your fears and concerns are no longer relevant. Regardless of its advisory status, the only thing that's left for you to discuss is whether you will honor the voice and the feelings of the people or will you not. I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, and God bless you.
Thank you, Brian, appreciate it. Anyone else, public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. So I would like to invite our senator and our state reps to come up to the table. Oh, yeah. You want to put that on the stage? Yeah. Is there enough chairs? Do we have enough chairs? Do we need more? We're good. Well, welcome. We appreciate you all coming. I thought before we started, if you could all introduce yourselves. Senator Murphy, you can start.
Well, I'm Senator Keith Murphy.
Thank you.
Representative Alexander.
Representative Reinfurt.
Representative Lisa Mazer.
Representative Henry Geisen.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate you guys coming. So we just wanted to get some ideas of some bills that you're supporting, following, sponsoring, answer any questions. We'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the educational bills that are up in the State House. There are quite a few. So anybody can start with anything that you'd like to say. Any bills that you guys are sponsoring or passionate about?
Go ahead, Senator. Boy, throw it on the spot.
Sorry.
So, I've got 18 bills in Concord this term,
Yes.
this year so far, and I think an even dozen of them deal with housing. I think that's where my focus has been for the most part. In terms of education policy, the proposal to ban cell phones has really had a lot of momentum behind it coming out of the Senate, and I just sat in the hearing for that in the House today, and I didn't see a lot of opposition from anybody in the room. So I'm not sure what Goffstown's policy is on cell phones, but if you don't have one, I suspect the legislature is going to make you have one pretty soon. Obviously a lot of hot topic issues, education freedom accounts and whether to expand them and how much, education funding in a very tight budget year is on our minds a lot. So I haven't seen the budget yet. I know my colleagues have, so I can't speak to that very much. And I'll stop hogging the microphone and let my good friend Joe here speak up.
Thank you, Senator. So I'm chairman of the House Housing Committee. So like Senator Murphy, he's my counterpart in the Senate. And I have multiple housing bills making its way through, just basically loosening up restrictions, making it easier to build on your own property, very important to me. I also sit on the Judiciary Committee where we deal with right to know law, things that you may be concerned about, civil rights, civil liberties, but not a whole lot to do with education, but I'm happy to be here and listen to feedback from the school board.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
And I'm Representative Sherry Reinfurt. I also sit on the Housing Committee with Representative Alexander, so our focus is helping to provide housing for elderly as well as our younger population, so it's affordable. And right now we're getting ready to go into crossover where the Senate bills come to the House and the House bills go to the Senate, so there's a lot that we haven't seen yet because we are focused in on our own committees, and we all independently see bills that as pertains to what committee we're on, and not until we actually get into the House do we actually vote on everything. So it's already gone through the House, and now we're waiting to have the Senate bills come to us. So, and the budgets haven't passed yet, so a lot is still up in the air.
Great, thank you.
Again, Representative Lisa Mazer, and I'm in my second term and now I'm a vice chair of the House Health, Human Services, and Elderly Affairs Committee, in short HHSEA, because it's a mouthful. And this term I sponsored 5 bills, and let's see, 2 of them have to do with protecting our privacy. A big proponent of that. and two others that protect children, and another one that is, it's a right to try bill. Don't confuse it with an assisted suicide bill, which a lot of people do, because there is a bill out there for that. But this right to try would put us, New Hampshire, as tied with number one, if not number one, in the entire country. We would be tied with Montana in providing care for people who are diagnosed with terminal illnesses and have nowhere to go. So these would open up access to treatments that are in clinical trials and not yet approved by the FDA. But as we all know, if you are given weeks, months to live, a lot of people would just want to try whatever they could to try and save their lives, as would their family. And I know my dad would have appreciated having access to that. So this is a passionate bill for me, because I'm, with Boston being right next door, they're a biotech hub, and this could really do good for our economy as well. So there's so many good things to this bill. And the other bills, but this particular bill, it did pass my committee shockingly on consent, which means that every member from both sides of the aisle voted on it, in favor of it, and in turn it passed on the House floor on consent, which is unbelievably awesome. So now, as Representative Reinfurt mentioned, it is on its way to the Senate. And yeah, we are in crossover. So, and we are voting on the budget this Thursday. And we honestly, as of today, have no idea where that's going to land. As far as I know, there are going to be at least a dozen floor amendments coming on it. So there is a lot up in the air with the budget. So if you ask us questions about the budget, it is still an unknown to us because of what's about to happen this Thursday. So yeah, if you have any questions on any of it, I'm always there.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
I won't bore you very long. Henry Guyson, Committee of Transportation Law. So most of what I do doesn't affect anything that you guys are doing at all. I got a bill through to Senate. It'll be heard tomorrow. That's germane to closing a loophole in veterans' health care with vehicle inspections to be approved by the DOT, and I'm one of the people fighting against the vehicle inspection law. So, nothing here. I haven't done anything with school buses, and I don't think I've co-sponsored any education bills that I can think of.
Not yet.
Yet. I'm still the new guy in town.
Yeah. So do board members have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Heather. Just want to make sure that we can kind of face each other instead of sitting on the table. So thank you, Ginny, for coming down with me.
Yeah.
Knowing Goffstown, knowing that you represent Goffstown, even though as a senator you do represent other districts, and Lisa, thank you, knowing that you also represent Ware. One of the major things that we've had in Goffstown, and I hear, is housing. We're looking at increasing housing, and I heard it today, which is great. But whenever we increase housing, we also increase infrastructure. We increase school resources. One of the things that I know that I chaired within the school board in the past years has been facility needs. We currently have 12 temporary classrooms within our school system, all at the elementary level. If we're increasing and being able to increase residency within the town, temporary classrooms are good, but they aren't forever, I guess you could say. And we're at the point, especially at our elementary school, of maybe even needing a new elementary school. What could we hopefully get down the future, knowing that we're in this legislative session, knowing you're fighting for the battles for the budget, knowing that you're fighting the battles for the housing? What do you envision us being able to do to get some type of building aid for a new school, knowing that, again, those 12 temporary classrooms, we don't want to put on more temporary classrooms, we don't have the footprint for them. What do we think we might be able to do for something along those lines?
Thank you,
I think that's a great question. I think when we talk about housing, we need to have an all-of-the-above approach. So things that I'm specifically invested in are accessory dwelling units, the right to build the in-law apartments behind your house. You know, if you have an aging relative or a child with disability, having that access where they can have their own like independence, but also like on the same property. So there's also a lot of research out there that shows that more housing does not necessarily equate to more students in the building. And I'm happy to send that information to you. I think there's a big misnomer going on that more housing is all of a sudden going to have a bunch new students. And I think what we need to do is kind of flip the narrative and say, we need housing. Everybody in this community deserves somewhere to live. And we need housing for all families. You know, I'm also specifically interested in manufactured housing. I mean, there's a beautiful community in this town, Medville, that has a bunch of great manufactured housing. And that's what I point to when I look at like solving the housing crisis, because somebody my age might love to build, or might love to have a smaller house and then slowly move up into maybe a house in the spice rack someday and raise a family. But this kind of the all of the above approach. With regards to school building aid, I would say that Goffstown is bucking the trend slightly, but I have seen my 8th year on the Goffstown Budget Committee, that enrollment has stayed steady, but it's still going down slightly. And I think this is where I task the school board with getting creative about where we're putting our students and how we're educating them. I think there's a lot of creative ways that the state allows parents to harness their own educational needs and opportunities. And I think as we expand those opportunities for families, we're going to find that you might not need a whole new school building.
Just to be as well, thank you for commenting on that. You know, we have been able to fill our student stocks, if you will, from when people graduate. Housing, you know, people sell their housing, new families come in, so we're able to replenish our ranks, if you will, for students. So even if we're going down maybe 10, 15, 30 students, maybe a year of a trend, I know that with these new buildings coming in at Bog Road and others, we are seeing an increase or projected increase for those students as well. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure that as we continue to build here in Goffstown, which is great, you know, we do have kind of those ratios of school-age children that we're looking at as well. But thank you for, you know, saying that, yeah, we need additional residents, but there's also some things that go along with that, and being able to have the forethought in the future to be able to look at that and say, okay, this is coming down the pipe too with that, I think it would be very beneficial, and thank you for advocating on our behalf on that.
Thank you, Jared. Anyone else? Questions, board members, comments? Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I just really appreciate you taking the time to be here. I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about the proposed cell phone ban. Just as a new board member and a parent, if you could just give us a synopsis of that.
So this bill was sponsored by Senator Ricciardi of Bedford. And honestly, I can see both sides of it, but it has a lot of momentum. And jumping in front of it would probably be jumping in front of a train, in my perspective. The bill that I've read essentially says that boards must have a policy. It doesn't dictate the policy. You must have a policy. So you could say students can bring their phone in and use the phone for graphing. When I was in high school, we had graphing calculators, but these days my understanding is everyone uses their phones for this. So you could still have kids bring their phones in, but you need to have a policy for when the phone can be out, when it can't be out, what the teacher can and can't do as far as enforcing that ban. And the sentiment that I have heard from teachers in my district and from my colleagues and their teachers in their district is they really want to have somebody, the state backing them up. They want to be able to say, we have a cell phone ban, because it's a nice, pithy little sentence that enables them to really tell the students in a couple of words, you can't have that, there's a cell phone ban. So I don't think that necessarily things are going to change for a lot of districts, because I think a lot of districts have policies in place, and it's really about providing that one sentence answer for the teacher.
Thank you. Sure. Is that it, Laura? Are you good? All right. Vanessa, do you have a question?
Yes, hello? Check. Okay, I'm on. Hi, guys. I'm also new, and thank you for being here. Joe, can I ask a follow-up on the housing thing? At the last meeting, which was also my first, we got a nice spreadsheet of the upcoming possible and definite complexes and builds coming up in Goffstown. And based on the numbers, it looks like it could be anywhere up to over 200 students. It could be less, but it could also be more. Could you expand a little bit on what numbers, like how this data might differ from data, like where you pull as far as what you would expect for a 3-family home or a duplex or an apartment to yield? Is there a different way to calculate that that might be off the 211 that we have on the sheet?
I guess I would say I haven't looked specifically at these housing projects. I know that that is something that Brian was estimating, and I think the school was estimating. But what I was talking about housing in general is that these units that are coming in are specifically like apartments, right? Like they're not necessarily like so it depends on, right, the type of family that's going to have access to this, or if it's a family at all. I mean,
right.
So I guess I don't have any specifics on like these specific development, but I'm saying as a whole, there's been a lot of research. Josiah Bartlett Center, it's a New Hampshire public policy think tank. They've done a lot of research over more housing does not necessarily equate to more students in the district. So we can estimate an amount, but we also can know that some of these students might be homeschooled, some of these might be taking advantage of alternate educational opportunities that the legislature has granted recently. So we don't know particularly how many students in general. It could be less than that. But I do know that the school board is creative. I know that you've had recently a relatively large 4th grade, and you had discussions around where these students are going and how you can make the current needs work, the current space needs work. I think the modulars were a creative way to solve that problem for a while. I agree we shouldn't necessarily have modulars, but I do know the 2021 budget, we gave over $1 million to Goffstown for school building aid, and that's what you use to expand Glen Lake with that. So we are doing what we can on the state level to help with the space needs, but I think by and large that we can deal with the population of students in this district and the current needs we have, current spaces we have.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm just a little nervous that we have kids in classrooms that are closets and the trailers, modulars. The ones at Glen Lake are great, but I just wonder if we could do more. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Vanessa. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Go ahead, Jack. Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
If the numbers were more like what the statistics we put out, which was only 1.64 children for every 3 to 4 bedroom house and 0.44 children for the apartments to get to the 216. What if we did have that increase? How would the proposed tax cap affect our ability to educate those children that were mandated to educate? Not to mention if they were special needs children or that had a high tuition rate that goes with them.
This is referencing a House bill, I think.
I'm trying to, what specific bill are you referencing, Jack?
This is the 2.5% tax cap.
675 probably.
Which can be overturned by a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, so that bill is a bill that was filed to make sure that we are protecting property taxpayers. I ran on a position, and I was elected on a position that I will not raise people's property taxes, and that's something that we're really focused on the state level. So we don't have a say in what the school board does with their budget, but we can say that the state's going to step in and rein in excessive local spending. There are opportunities in that bill to override the cap if with 2/3 vote is achieved. So we've provided you tools, but I think by and large having what we have turnout 2 weeks ago, 15%? Having 15% and maybe, I mean, the school budget passed by 300 votes, so maybe having 8% of the, 8% of the Goffstown voters telling the rest of the town how high their taxes should be. The state sometimes needs to step in and say that's excessive local control, and that we need to deal with that.
Excessive local control. So 2,600 people voting should be wiped out by 500 people deciding? That's better control? That's use of the money? Right? How about agreeing with the court rulings, right, that says that that the state isn't funding their adequacy mandates correctly, right? in giving that money, that would give us the freedom to be creative with our education needs.
Well, Jack, your definition of what an adequate education is going to be different from my definition is.
The court's
And
definition.
this court case is far from over. So, you know, we can talk about a court case all day, but knowing that there's still a lot of runway there.
But adequacy funding was $3,200 in 2003, and it's $4,000 now. Hardly kept on pace with the increase of all the other costs. And then I would like to get a little more information on the two bills that are protecting the students of Goffstown. And I don't necessarily agree. I think that the privacy bill was a little bit petty, but the anti-LGBTQ, the trans bills that are going through, we're all in favor of those. Are those the,
I have not seen a bill that I would describe as anti-LGB.
Right.
okay.
I've also not seen a bill that applies to the schools in that regard.
It applies to their ability to play sports, no, in the school system? The two trans girls that were in the state?
If you're asking about biological boys being able to play in girls' or women's sports or inhabit their private spaces, I, for one, am not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of that happening. I am pro-girl, pro-woman, and that is, I firmly and proudly voted for those bills, and I would again, and I sponsored two that protected them from irreversible procedures and surgeries.
But so your bill that you asked for for freedom to have, for someone who's ill to choose what they want.
Are you
but still-
comparing that to a terminal illness, being trans child?
That it's a choice of a parent, right? Parents' rights, parents choosing, but yet we're restricting that on the other side.
So Jack, can children go to a tanning salon and get tattoos without their parents' consent? Yes or no?
No?
Can they do it with their parents' consent because they can't tan in the state?
So members of the opposite side of the aisle from where we sit in the House actually filed a bill this term that would prohibit companies from distributing weight loss supplements to minors and would also penalize those companies that distributed those supplements to minors. So how would those kind of supplements to children be considered dangerous? But drugs that would sterilize them and cause, if we're going to go there, I guess we'll go there, like genital atrophy and other horrible things, then when I sponsored these two bills, you better believe I did my research on them first. And I partnered with the LGBT Courage Coalition. And I worked with them nonstop, 24/7 on these bills. And I have worked with people who are of that community and are now adults and are now trying to tell children and parents of children to please wait until you're 18 before making these irreversible choices for your kids, like for you and your kids. And yes, the government will intervene in instances like we won't let kids to go to tanning salons or get tattoos. Well, you know, when it comes to harming children, yes, we will intervene. And there were other people on the other side of the aisle that voted for these bills too. So there's more than just the people sitting behind this table that agree. 71% of New Hampshire agree with us as well. We listened to that in November, and these bills were as a result of that.
I believe it was more.
All right. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question that actually was brought to me from one of our wonderful teacher reps, and I think it's pertinent. When we talk about a tax cap in the bill that's going forward, I know with the school board or school districts, most of our expenses are on salaries, especially for teachers or for some of for our bargaining units. Knowing that, we have a X number percentage that might be put in place, if we go through a teacher contract, that's probably going to increase us more than the 3% for that year, for that contract. Is that something that would be taken into consideration for part of, as well as, for these bills that are going forward? Does it include those bargaining unit contracts that are also being added to that potentially over 3%? I just don't know, so that's why I wanted to ask that question.
So this is a great question, because this might not be the setting for this, but I do want to have a broader conversation about, does increased funding necessarily equate to student outcomes? I think what we're doing here is we're criticizing about how much money is going towards what, or how much money we're capping. But let's look at the numbers and see that our students are not performing as well as they used to, and we need to ask ourselves why. We need to ask ourselves why in the current teacher contract we're paying master's teachers more than bachelor track teachers. Does that mean student outcomes are better when they're taught by a teacher with a master's degree as opposed to a bachelor's degree? We need to ask these questions, and I don't necessarily think there's any research on that. So I guess I would challenge the school board to look at this contract and ask those questions. The budget committee can only do so much, and I know I have another hat. We can ask those questions too, but we only have an up or down vote. So I really challenge the school board to ask those questions. Put student outcomes first. Don't put teacher salary. Don't put anything else. Ask how are we going to improve student outcomes? Because I think 50%, hold on. Goffstown High School, math proficiency, 36%. Let's look. Science, 52%. I don't necessarily care what the state average is. I care about what Goffstown's average is. So we need to start asking ourselves, is the money we're throwing at the school budget an effective use of our money? And that's where you guys come in, not us.
Mr. Chair, if I could follow up and ask it a different way. So when we talk about state spending or the metrics that the state uses, we take out of all school districts the cost of transportation and the cost of bonds for buildings so that we can kind of level set community by community. With the bills that are coming up, do we have anything like that associated within the bills of, taking out this type of expense? Because, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire is more rural than Goffstown. They're going to have a huge transportation cost sending their students to other places. Are there those types of segmentation within the bill so that we can understand the averages when we're comparing communities to communities? That was my intent to my question. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
This is a House bill that hasn't come to me yet, so I can't say I'm sorry about that, given the grilling my colleagues are getting right now.
I can't answer for the school buses right now.
And unfortunately, like we said, we're all on different committees, and none of us sponsored or co-sponsored that bill. So is the 2.5% tax cap that's being proposed all-inclusive? And so you take your transportation piece, you take your salaries, you take your cost to educate, all of those things combined collectively would be the 2.5%. And then you would take each different community, because communities are different, as you said, and within their realm, they have a higher transportation, but maybe they have less teachers, maybe they have less students. So when you're looking at the melting pot of money, how is it spent, right? And in some instances, it may mean that we have to spend wiser, right? Within our own homes, we're accustomed to living within a budget. And if something needs to be cut here in order to pay this, perhaps that, and again, none of us co-sponsored it and none of us sponsored it to, speak 100% to what the intention is. But if you're looking at a 2% cap, it would have to be an all-inclusive. Does that answer your question? Kind of.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of looking at what's traditionally been done by the state when we're comparing community to community, and that's really the question I have is there something like that in the bill? And if you don't know the bill because you didn't sponsor it, I completely understand, but hopefully that's something that you can look at to say, what have we done for comparisons in the past, and make sure that we understand those as we move forward. And I'm sorry, Mr. Senator, go ahead.
So there was one thing I wanted to chime in if I could. your last question. For one, I've done a lot of research into communities that are really against housing out of fear, partially because that it's going to add students to the system. Goffstown's not on that list. This town has done a pretty good job of adding housing. Some of your neighbors, one just north of us here, they have not done nearly the job that you folks have done. And, it's pretty easy to tell when you look at the building permits who's really afraid of new houses and who isn't. So congratulations on doing really well on that score. The second part of your question in that case, I think it's important to understand that we have a court case hanging over the state's head, and I think that everyone is on hold. Student building aid, I think, might have seen more action this year, but no one's going to do anything to allocate more money while we have that hanging over our heads. And until we get an answer, I think that it's kind of on pause. But if we can get through that to an outcome that we can all live with, I would certainly go over there and fight for additional. Having attended school classes in trailers at one point in my life, I would rather not send kids to school in trailers.
All right, thank you. Shane, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, so Joe, I know you mentioned whether we get more bang for our buck with a master's degree versus a bachelor's. So one thing that can happen with a master's degree is that it opens up opportunities. Teachers with a master's degree can teach dual enrollment courses, meaning that those students can get college credit, which saves families money down the road, in the present. Also creates a pathway for that child to get into college and have a jump start, maybe graduate college early. Additionally, you cited the state testing scores, which are standardized tests. So to use that as your only barometer of data is a bit disingenuous. I know that's what's easy because that's what everyone gets measured against. But if you're going to do that, then you should look at what the state averages are and maybe care about that. Our students, we just had a presentation with our elementary students here, and that's not going to come up on a standardized test. That's not going to come up on the SAS or the SAT, right? So I think when you look at the outcomes, that's a snapshot that doesn't represent what the actual outcomes are. That's what everyone uses to say how poorly the public schools are doing. It does not show the full picture. So I think it's important to identify that and acknowledge that.
That's what we have to go on, though. So you understand that's what we have to go on.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But it's the easy thing to do.
Well, and just to add to that, to be fair, during school deliberative, Brian uses those numbers too. It's not like we're using different numbers than you're using. We're all using these numbers. So I do see value in our presentation, but I don't know what other numbers to use if we're looking at student outcomes.
Because there's the piece of it that a student taking the SAT may not have been in a math class that has taught the content that's on the SAT. You know what I mean? So I understand that that's what you guys have to go on. But to use that and say, well, look at 37% math proficiency, to say that and say, well, our kids are failing at math, that's a little bit disingenuous. That's all I'm saying.
Well, 1 in 3 are proficient in math.
I think disingenuous is a pretty harsh word for when we're looking at stats.
According to
We're not being disingenuous saying those things out loud.
The data is the data. All I'm
Right.
doing is saying what the data says.
It doesn't make us disingenuous.
I don't think that.
Respectfully, if you can give us another measuring metric,
Yeah.
we'll look at it. But right now, we don't have another measuring metric. So calling people disingenuous or dishonest or whatever it is, it's out of line, sir.
Yeah.
Give us a measuring metric and we'll look at it.
We're going to move on. We need to keep this civil. Okay. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah. We just talked about this recently in our curriculum and education meeting about funding and outcomes. And an example, in Mountain View, we needed 2 more laptop cards because state testing is done on lap card. It has to be done on computers. And the kids have to know how to use these computers correctly. All of the ins and outs, how to do the testing, how to go from here to there, to get to this part of the testing, to that part. How to use these computers, not their phone, not their computer at home, but this computer for exactly the explicit instructions their testing is asking them. Okay, so these children take testing all the grades at Mountain View take testing. They're testing, it takes 6 weeks to do the testing, and nobody else at different times takes 6 weeks to use it. And all of the laptops in Mountain View are taken offline during those times. So nobody has access to those computers. So goes to show you that those students have very little access to computers in order to learn the skills and be expert users, very familiar. They may know the information, they don't know how to necessarily get it on the computer the way they're supposed to and have it done in a timely manner because they're timed. So that just tells you that funding and outcomes do have a direct outcome. And so you can't say that funding doesn't have any comparison to outcomes, because it really, really does. And that's a perfect example of it. These kids can't show you that they know a lot more than they're getting down on that computer test, because they're not used to that computer. And they can't be used to that computer because we don't have enough computers for them to get used to them. So honestly, think about those kind of little details when you're talking about funding and our kids' outcomes. Another thing about kids' outcomes that we were talking about, the little thing that PFT did, encouraging kids reading. I'm sorry. I'm a redhead and I get like a little crazy. They did a little PFT reading thing. A student who reads 20 minutes a night should not be the kid who has the most minutes in their classroom. That, in my day, in my kids' day, that was standard practice. And then they did their own enjoyment reading after that. That kids now are not being encouraged to read at home, that libraries are being talked against, so that kids don't feel comfortable going to libraries. And parents are encouraging them to read more. And parents themselves are being role models for those kinds of things. If you can read, and you read well, you understand your science books, you understand your math books, you understand your social studies books, and you do better in all of those subjects. And you also learn all kinds of other things while you're enjoying. You learn about, the space. You learn about some kind of cool plant, some kind of cool animal along the way. And those things aren't being encouraged. You need parent participation also. And people are talking about, public schools are terrible, kids hear this all the time. Kids need to be proud of their schools, and we need to change the message. And we have to get out there and work on it. Creating this chaos that we have now, and repeating the message, all this baloney, it's doing large damage to our kids, and we need to stop it. And as adults in the room, we have to start looking at some of these things and changing it so that our kids now, I have grandkids that are in the education system right now in Goffstown, and I'm sad for them because these things are going on and people are just fluffing it off as to bad public education. It's not bad publication. It's bad funding, it's bad announcements about it. We need to do better as adults, and then our kids will do better as students in school. I do want to say, instead of sounding like a crab, thank you for the tax break at St. A's. As far as helping tax breaks in Goffstown, that was huge. So I do thank you for that. I'm a little concerned, though, that Thursday you're voting on a budget you haven't seen yet. And I've just heard that $80 million is being taken out of by the CDC from this year's budget. and $80 million, and you haven't seen this budget, and you're voting on Thursday, and you don't know the articles, and
We do.
So to help you with the legislative process, we have a finance-approved budget amendment.
Okay.
That was passed in House Finance last week.
okay,
Now, this is kind of the crazy week where now the bill goes to the floor for a full vote. And process-wise, any state rep can make any amendment to the budget
On the floor.
on the floor of the House. So I have an amendment I'll be putting in for local records, right? Like, there's other things that, any financial sort of bill that has already passed the House, a state rep can go and move something in the budget. So
Okay.
think about, so we have a finance-approved budget.
Okay.
But the finance-approved budget is going to be nothing like the final budget, because there's going to be like, Lisa said 12, I think there'll be more like 30 or
okay, so
35.
if you put an amendment on now, and you've got all of these people.
Can you speak into the mic?
I'm sorry. 2 people from Goffstown have amendments. We have 50 people. So how many amendments are there going to be? 25? How are all the people going to learn about those amendments thoroughly in order to vote? I mean, it's a crazy system.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's,
honestly.
It's like that on
I
every
call it-
level of government. It's not
There's
us.
400 of the craziest people in one room.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I
That's the
agree with you.
political process.
I'm just flabbergasted that we would have a government that way. And I've noted just here that funding for education is seriously becoming a problem, too. There was a thing, I think, a bill that said, this bill's passed that anticipated will cause increased spending, but no funds will be allocated. I mean, it's an education bill.
Where you get your information from?
From the bill.
What's the
And-
bill number?
Well, I'm just saying, this is a bill, and this is the language in the bill.
What's the bill?
And
What
it's
bill?
saying, no, I know why they're asking me what bill. Just a second. It's, I'm sorry, I'm confused. I don't remember which one it is. The problem is, it says this in the bill, and it says there will be no money allocated in this bill. And I have a sheet of unfunded mandates that is huge. And I'm finding over the years, there were like 14 last year, 12 the year before, 10 the year before, 12 the year before, and then it came down through the years to 7, 4, 3. So as our funding has been decreasing every year, the unfunded mandates have been increasing. So it seems like as we're coming to like the middle, we have funding bills from the state that are not being recognized at all. Unfunded mandates are increasing, and these sorts of things are increasing. And then we're trying to put caps on top of town funding. So I don't know how you think that a school board can function under these kinds of funding issues and then still expect our kids to have exemplary outcomes with all of the other things. So these are just some thoughts I have that you as our representatives, I want to keep taxes. I'm on a limited budget. I'm retired. I don't have extra money. My 401k and stock has plummeted. But I think education is really important, and for things to keep going on in the future for our kids, they need to have a good education, whether it's a trade education or, excuse me for bothering you, or an academic education. Thank you.
So if I can respond,
Yeah,
if I
I'd
may.
like you guys to
Thank you very
answer
much.
some questions, and we need to keep this civil, please.
I was being civil.
I think everybody here in this room everybody here agrees education is important. Nobody here is against education. For that matter, no one's against public education. We all think that people in this building do a really important job. My kids, I have 4 kids. They attend a building much like this one. You said something that I have to address, and that is, you said that education funding is down. This is my 6th term in the legislature, 4 in the House and 2 in the Senate. And every single budget has sent more money to the towns than the one before. Every single time, the amount of funding has gone up. It is not that funding is down. And I have to say that when I read people, I'm not pointing fingers at Goffstown, I have other towns that I represent part of Manchester, but I routinely see people on school boards around the state say that the state isn't paying for education, the state sends less money, and they blame the state legislature for increases in property taxes, and that's disingenuous, in my opinion, if we want to throw that word around. It is disingenuous to blame the state legislature for local spending decisions. And I respect the right of people in each town to spend the money as they see fit and vote accordingly. I truly believe in local control for education. But when you reach to the state and say, give us more money, give us more money, give us more money, the more you do that, the more handcuffs come with the money. And I respectfully suggest, be careful what you wish for with state spending, because you will lose local control the more the state funds it. They who fund it will run it. So if you think the state is going to hand over another $600 million, you should definitely not want any piece of that. And that's my comment.
I say I wasn't being disrespectful.
I understand, ma'am, and I don't take offense.
These are huge problems that need to be addressed.
Sure.
And I'm concerned about them. Just because of our kids, I'm concerned about them.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Does anybody else want to comment on Jenny's questions of budget and stuff? Lisa?
Well, I just want to, you kind of went through it quickly, but we did have a conversation with Brian Scott and others this past week about HB 147 that you kind of flew over, but I did want to mention that when bills like that, and I'll read, the bill is relative to clarifying tax exemptions for properties used by religious, educational, and charitable organizations. That is a really good bill, but it's, the intent of it was really good, right? But St. A's impacting Goffstown taxes. We heard you loud and clear. Okay, when we got your emails and we had conversations, and this is, a person, like, this was in our party that sponsored this, we had to have difficult conversations with that person. We tried to get it amended, all of that. So there was a lot going on in the background on that bill, and it was ready to pass on the floor. And if you watch the House session, Representative Reinfurt got up and did a speech, and we actually got that bill tabled in a voice vote, which is unbelievable. To go from it pretty much on the floor passing to being tabled, that doesn't happen often. So that we were, I'll use the legislative word whipping, we were whipping our colleagues on Signal Chat saying, please don't vote, So just so you know, we listen to, we listen. And we have SB 297 coming up too. We're listening, and we're gonna have conversations on that too. So we're not, like, we want to keep having these conversations. We think they're really important, and we do like really actually respect sitting down across the table and having these conversations. But I think it's important that we acknowledge that, hey, yes, you might not like some of the things that are happening, but there's also some really good things happening. So.
And that particular bill, it didn't affect 95% of New Hampshire, but it affected 100% of Goffstown.
Yes.
And it was important that we kill that bill, so to speak, table it, so that it could be worked on, because there was merit. But for Goffstonians, it was important to know that we had your back.
Yeah.
We agreed. So Shane had his hand up, and then I think Jack. So go ahead, Shane.
So just thinking about solutions, and this can be for any of you guys. I'm sure you guys all have different ideas, but what ideas do you have to increase revenues? Because I know that's a real problem that we have in the state, is that it's really just property tax, right? So do you guys have any ideas And I'm sure you guys all have different ideas. So, I mean, just kind of picking your brain, not asking for like concrete solutions here, but what ideas do you guys have?
So the highest contributor to tax revenue should not be property tax. It should be business, manufacturing, and industry. And one of the problems that a lot of municipalities have, and Goffstown has it as well, is we're talking about the housing crisis and we're talking about the size of our backyards, but we're not talking about how to bring business in. When I ran for budget, one of the things that I mentioned is we're at critical mass right now. We're not sustainable. So we have to either agree that Goffstown is not going to grow, or we have to agree on ways to grow it. If we agree that Goffstown is not going to grow, then it's going to become the town that you can afford to live in. And we're already, I think it was the 5th or 7th most wealthy community in the state. And that's not going to stop because it's just going to get shoveled onto the backs of the homeowners. So this, unfortunately, is not going to be resolved by the school board or by us at the state. This is going to become zoning and budget. But the chip out of the housing tax crisis and the chip out of your financial crisis is that we need to look at models that were successful, like Bedford with the 101 connector, and say, where can we put business, industry, and maybe even some manufacturing in the town, and that will alleviate the individual housing tax burden and your budget.
Yeah, Henry's entirely correct with that. I think some overly restrictive zoning is part of the problem. People complain that there's not a lot of commercial real estate in the town. Why? Why? Like, why can't we put a coffee shop closer to the spice rack? I imagine there'll be a lot of people that would like a coffee shop up there. So I think we need to get creative on how we plan and build our town, and you're not the board for that, and we're not the board for that, but what we can do is give you as many tools possible to develop Goffstown how we see fit.
And I want to be clear, I'm not asking you guys to fix the problem.
Yeah, no.
I'm just asking what the ideas you have are, that's all.
I'd like to
that was a great one, Henry.
Thank you. I'd like to come back to one other, at the very beginning, I'm sorry, ma'am, I forgot your name. Ginny. At the very beginning of your presentation, one of the things that you mentioned was the involvement of parents. My girlfriend used to be a professional educator. She's changed professions. But one of the things that was always a struggle was parental involvement, parental support, not just supervising the homework or helping with the math, but encouraging a reading hour, encouraging. So how do we engage the parents? Because it seems like the culture has shifted that the parents expect you to raise their children, and that's not the role of education. And, you know, when you have a kid act out, I actually, I have a constituent who had a kid that was being bullied, and one of the first questions that I asked was, why is this kid not suspended from school? Make it the parents' problem. Why aren't they suspended from the bus? Make it the parents' problem. And I was told that there are policies against making it the parents' problem. So how do we involve the parents so that we're not asking you and our teachers to raise the kids when parents are an important leg on that stool? So I don't have the answer, and I don't know that anybody in this room has the answer, but that's something that we really need to explore if we're looking to explore education, in my opinion.
All right, go ahead, Jack.
For 40 years, it's been the conversation to bring businesses into Goffstown, at least 40 years. 40 that I can remember, and probably 55 that I can remember. So the reason why it doesn't come in is because there's not the traffic, there's not, the big box stores don't come in because there's no natural gas. There's lots of reasons like that. The infrastructure doesn't support it. But if we all here agree that public education is a mainstream, is something that is good for everybody, good for the community, good for the country, good for the state, then what are the amendments that you're going to offer to help the state increase the funding to the school? Or do you believe that you already give more than enough money that isn't derived from property tax? And that it's simply the waste of the town, and that every town in the state is wasting their money. That's why they're meeting these property tax burdens.
Senator already answered that question.
Yeah. I think we addressed that, Jack. I think we understand that you may want, you know, $600 million more to spend on what you see fit in the Goffstown district. And we support strong public schools. We support strong schools in general. But we also have a local spending problem. And we're going to make sure that we tackle that as well.
I don't think we have a local spending problem.
I mean, our superintendent is the highest paid in the state. So I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily saying that.
He's also the longest tenured one in the state for the job that he does, but.
He does a great job.
I digress.
But I'm saying the school board needs to also look at a lot of other things.
So you guys don't think that we need to increase the state funding for public education.
Superintendent also had his hand up to be recognized.
Yep, thank you, Henry. Go ahead, Brian. Or did you have a question? Because I know I had.
No, I was just going to add a couple of things, if I could maybe try to wrap things up.
Yep, that's what I
So if I could maybe, final word?
Well, I had 2 board members that haven't been able to speak
Okay,
yet.
I'll
and had their
wait.
hands up. Yep, Caroline?
So I just want to say briefly that kids do well when they can do well. And I think that we've talked a lot at times with the board, and when budget comes in and we're going through the budget process, we have a lot more special education than we ever have. We're going to see that. Our population is way different than when we went to school. And we often talk about when we went to school, it wasn't like this. It's not going to be like it was when we went to school. The presentation that we saw tonight, the Unified Arts Program, the Social Emotional Learning Program, all of that community that makes up all of our schools in the district help kids in every single area that they need it in order for them to be able to successfully learn in the classroom, which I think is also important to focus on. Yes, they go for academics, but there's a lot of outside influence that the kids are coming into every single day. And by discipline, they're just going to continue to come back with the problem if we're not looking to resolve the issue that is really, at bay. I also wanted to talk or ask about any input on a bill in regards to families being able to choose which public school their kids go to. So if we could learn a little bit more about that.
That actually, there was a hearing on that. There was a Senate bill hearing on that just today. So you can look it up. It was Senator Sullivan's bill in the House Education Committee. So there was a hearing on that today.
Do we know the status of it?
No, it just was heard today.
Oh, okay.
So it would be great if you looked it up. It was just her speaking on it. You can, I forget the name, the number of it. I can look it up real quick, but it did just happen. So, yep, I can look it up.
Is that the one that says within the district, somebody can transfer for reasons? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And that one would really have a minimal impact on Goffstown. It may affect the elementary or middle school if somebody is just not fitting in and they want to try another school in the district. Where we have one high school in the district, it would have a net zero impact. And as I recall that bill, it also said that if you chose to transfer within the district, you would be responsible for the transportation at that point, that they would not expect buses to change routes for that purpose. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I did read a little bit about was that, like, if you were accepted into a different district, so if I wanted to send my child to Bedford, that I could bring them to a bus stop in Bedford, and they could just get on the bus there, so that could change bus numbers, and, that now we're paying for that student to ride our buses, and they would be paying a tuition, but it seems like it's at a certain percentage, not at full or what we would expect from another town.
Okay, you're talking about a different bill than I am. I'm not as familiar with that bill. That bill does exist. The one I was talking about was specifically within district. I apologize.
Okay.
She's talking about the one where you can transfer districts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, I forgot what they called it. It was-
I believe there was also language in, I think the House version of the bill that only if there was space available.
It does seem like it's a space, yeah.
So I think that Goffstown probably wouldn't apply, it depends on the school. Some schools might, but
Yeah.
I think that also was based on needs of the space.
It was, so, yeah, there was a bill, well, this is a different one even today, but making best interest placements within the same school district.
That's the
That
one I was talking about.
Yeah, that's one.
The Senate had a version of that bill, but I believe
Yes.
it was dead. We didn't pass it.
Okay.
All right, so Retta, I saw your hand up. Did you have something?
Yeah, so all of this has been very interesting. I've learned so much about the house that is up in Concord and how it all works, so I appreciate all the work that you have done. Just a couple of comments. I do want to say, I also sit on the curriculum committee, and we acknowledged during COVID that it wasn't a lot of people across the country are behind. We're very concerned about it, and we're working towards improving their skills there. So this is not going to get resolved in 1 or 2 years. It's going to be something that takes years. We look at that and we talk about it. There's so much more to the data, but it is being looked at. The other thing, I'm trying to grasp, given kind of the budget and the, property taxes, how do we justify the expense of these educational freedom accounts? Again, I'm not saying right, wrong, I'm not saying any of that. It's like $100 million that these are going to cost. How does that all come out when it feels like, whether it's happening or not, it feels like that the public schools are being kind of crippled with lots of regulations and laws. So that's the part that I'm trying to understand, to be able to explain why are we diffusing the education that's inefficient? Who actually gets to take advantage of that? Who's being left out and being stuck? They can't even go to the next district because it's, transportation issues. So, we're concerned about education of the students and trying to understand where's New Hampshire going with this, because I know people want to come to Goffstown because we have great schools and we work hard at that, but I'm feeling like we're getting crippled.
Yeah, I think the participation in EFAs, the low participation of Goffstown students shows how great Goffstown schools are. I'm looking at the data. It says 57 students are using EFAs in the Goffstown district. That means 57, the school is losing about $3,800 times 57. Not a whole lot of funding, right? But what these 57 students are getting is an alternate education that them and their parents decided was the best fit for them. So Goffstown schools are great for most students, but not all students. So the legislature, I don't want to speak for my friends, but the legislature will continue to invest in educational freedom. And we don't ask people, when they walk through these doors, we don't ask them how much money they have. So why are we asking EFA students how much money do you have? We don't means test public education. We don't say, we're only going to educate poor people, not rich people. That's not what we do. Government is there to educate children and provide them opportunities. So I'm fully supportive of expanding the program. I think it's been wildly successful. Like I said, the Goffstown schools are great because only 57 students are taking advantage of it. So even if this is expanded from 350% to more, I think I came into a school board meeting, I remember 4 years ago, I think it was my second term, everybody was crying wolf, like this program is going to completely dismantle Goffstown schools. And we only see 57 students participating. So that just shows how great the schools are for most families.
And I just want to add on, of course I'm concerned about Goffstown, I sit at this table. I'm concerned about education in New Hampshire in general, where it's funded 50th in the nation, public schools, public higher education, and what is the state going to come to where it doesn't value education? And, whether it's true or not, they think public, the narrative that's out there is public education is so bad, and that's, I don't think that's the case. And I really like what Ginny said about we need to change what we're saying and how we're explaining it.
Ma'am, may I also offer to you that the Education Freedom Account grants, they're a different funding pool that's assessed in a different way, so it does not directly crosstalk with public education.
There was also, you mentioned $100 million. That number has been completely discredited. The most recent estimates are that going completely universal, which neither the House or the Senate has envisioned doing in the next year or two, going completely universal would cost about $28 million for the state. It's a lot of money, but it's not $100 million. I personally, I believe in public education, but I take a very expansive definition of that. Any education that's publicly funded, to me, is public education. So what happens here, absolutely, but also charter schools and EFAs. It's all part of a very large pie, and some kids learn better other ways than others. And I get to say that I live in Manchester, and there's certain schools in Manchester where I prefer my children to not go, and to have that amount of flexibility, I think is important.
And not all not all children who are homeschooled use EFAs. There's a lot that don't, and I will tell you that any that do, if that program were to stop tomorrow, they would probably still continue homeschooling. So it's, you've heard us say, we support public schools. I went to a public school. I thrived in it. we support it fully, but we also support other ways parents want to educate their children, and that's not the same for everyone. And we think that should be, they should have the freedom to do that, and I'm glad, I love that New Hampshire does that.
I think one thing that is not being talked about is the money that actually goes per pupil to the school, and the $38,000 to $5,000, whatever it is that goes to the EFAs, the school is still keeping the difference. So call it $10,000. If you've got $15,000, $5,000 is going to the EFA, the school is still keeping the difference, and yet they don't have they don't have that student to teach. So, there's this balance that, in conversation and narrative, if you will, is that EFA students are taking away, but the lion's share of the money is still in the school, even though the child isn't. And so when we're talking about flipping the narrative, I think what the narrative really should be is that the kids are what's important. Whether they learn in public school, I have 5 children and 16 grandchildren. They all went to public school. I went to public school. There's nothing wrong with it, but not everybody learns that way. 2 of my grandchildren don't go to public school because that's how they learn best. So when we're talking about the rhetoric that's happening online, the rhetoric that our children are hearing that's impacting the way they learn, we as the adults in this community have an opportunity now to change that narrative, to stop saying it's this person's fault or that person's fault or, whatever it is, to, what, the kids are what's important. And that's our opportunity right now, wherever it is that they're going to be educated, whether it's in public school, whether it's homeschool, or whether it's EFAs. It's all important because that's how a child is going to learn best.
All right, well, I appreciate all, real quick, Jenny, because we want to wrap up.
Just really quick.
Use the microphone.
I would like to say, I know kids learn differently. I'm a pediatric nurse. I see all different kinds of kids in all different situations. But I know of kids that are not able to access EFAs. This was a plan that initially came out for low-income students. And I know of low-income students that aren't able to access it because they can't afford the rest of the tuition. So instead of increasing the amounts to sky high for everybody, I would wish that you would increase the amounts of for low-income people so that the people who are at the bottom of the income scale could really use that program as well. Because right now, there are kids, and I know at least a couple that I've spoken to, that can't use the program because they're in a school they can't be in. They've gone into a GED program instead. They can't go to a charter school because single mom family, they can't afford the rest of the tuition. So it would make more sense to me, instead of giving all of that money to a family that's already sending their kid or can easily afford to send their kid to a private school or to a charter school, to kids whose mom is never going to be able to send them. They just don't have the opportunity to go to those schools. So that's just something to think about too, if we really want to impact low income on
That is
EFAs.
happening. That is happening. The EFAs are probably becoming universal. So anyone would have access to them.
She's saying something.
I'm glad to hear you
offset
support the
tuition.
program, though. Thank you very
Oh, yeah.
much. We also support the program.
All right, so board members have had a time to talk. I know Brian would like to say something.
Thank you. So thank you, Senator Murphy. Thank you to our state reps for being here. I wanted to just highlight a couple things if I could. Number one, we had a meeting, Mr. Gross and I, along with our partners at Town Hall, had a meeting with our state reps on Friday. I'd like to highlight that we had an issue that we wanted to bring to their attention, and they all came and met with us on Friday. We're not going to agree on all the bills, and that's something that we have spirited conversations, and they know the things that I agree and don't agree with. but they came in and they're looking to help us on the health trust bill. That one was, what number is that one, Scott?
297.
297, House Bill 290, it was a
SB.
Senate bill.
Yeah.
297, so we talked about that one. I appreciate Ginny bringing up the St. A's bill that they essentially killed. That tabled what would have been $35 million in property tax payments away from St. Anselm College that would have gone back onto the general Goffstown roll. So that was big. And then there's one more that I wanted to highlight that you guys haven't heard about, and the board's going to hear about it in your agenda this evening. So you're familiar with the special education aid that was short, and I think all of you sprung into action and more money was put into the state budget for special education aid. We're noticing now we're having the same issue with vocational and technical education. So the board is going to hear this evening that we have a $217,000 bill that we just received from the City of Manchester for our students that attend the CTE Center there at the Manchester School of Technology, $217,000, because the state allocates a set amount of money, and then they do the math and figure out how many students there were, and if there were more students than they anticipated, then the districts got less. So for us, that's a $217,000 hit, and it's from last year. So I just got a bill from last year for $217. I'm likely to get another bill this year for a similar amount. So we need some relief. We need some more money in the CTE program. I think we can all appreciate we don't need less plumbers, we need more plumbers. We don't need less tradespeople and electricians and all the different trades, we need more. So that's one that you're gonna hear about, and maybe that's something that an amendment could be considered. So this is just hitting districts. We've just kind of learned about this. So more districts will have similar outcomes of that. Scott, did you want to share anything else? 30 seconds?
We negotiated 60 seconds. So with regard to that tax cap bill that is going through, there's a couple of things, and it's a good segue. So we're short $217,000 on state vocational aid, none of your fault. Budget was set a couple of years ago. We were also short over $250,000 of special ed aid. So, and with that, when we start talking about tax caps, this is not a tax cap on just the budget or the appropriation. It is net of revenues. So if there are not revenues that are coming in that were expected, then that's part of that cap that you have there. So if, again, $500,000 is there, that's a problem. When you have a perfect storm, and we had this 2 or 3 years ago, you remember from the budget process, we had a residential out-of-district placement. That was $500,000. So when we start talking about a loss of $500,000 in revenues and an increased cost of an out-of-district placement, that's $1 million. And if there is such a cap, then you're going to have to cut at least $1 million just to deal with that alone. And I think repeatedly that will be detrimental. The other part that I wanted to mention was you mentioned before about the override being 2/3. That is onerous, and I would hope that you would consider an amendment to that. A long-term 20-year bond on a building that could be $100 million requires 60% voter approval to pass at a town meeting. And you're saying that a 1-year budget would require a 67%. So that to me is a bit high. So I would request respectfully that there would be an amendment if this is something that you feel passionately about, that target to override it would be what is similar in almost every other statute that you deal with in terms of spending. That was about a minute and 20 seconds.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Brian. So before Brian spoke, Jack had this, are you good?
Yep.
Okay, so all the boards are good?
Yeah,
State reps, senators? you're
I
good?
just want to thank you for the opportunity. This is always helpful. I'm not saying I'll come back every month, but
No.
every few months, feel free. Like, we'd love to keep the dialogue open. I think this is important for the public to be able to see us engaging on this issue,
Yeah.
because I see it a lot online,
Yes.
like everyone else does. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we
Yes.
appreciate you guys coming
Yeah, and we
tonight.
do love seeing Goffstown students in the State House, and we do see them every now and then. We actually had the chorus come and do our national anthem, and that was a real treat. And it's not because I'm biased. They were the best I've ever heard. And it was incredible. It really was. So I'm looking forward to conversations with Brady. So thank you for for having us.
Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I also wanted to thank the host from our Friday meeting. That was very productive and very positive,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, board members. All right, yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. We'll see you next time.
I made marks on both of them.
All right, so is
Stuff got
everybody
too
ready to
close to my
continue?
stuff.
All right, so moving
trying
on,
to see around the
we
corner.
need to approve March 17th meeting minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read it?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Oh,
I'll second. Oh,
hang on.
sorry.
So, no, I thought she was, oh, wait for Mrs. Moran. Sorry, Denise. So Jared made a motion to approve the minutes and Jack seconded. Is any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Okay, we're unanimous. All right, moving on to committee reports, financial. We'll do manifest first. Carolyn?
I'll make a motion to approve the March 14th to April 7th manifest. The total is $3,334,082.72.
Thank you. Do I have a second? By who, Jared? By Jared. Go ahead.
So I will just touch upon some of the larger spending amounts. So the payroll taxes and benefits equal $2,604,114.49. In our special education, we had Durham School Service for in-district and out-of-district transportation of $68,282. Seven Hills for out-of-district services was $45,436. There's a few other special ed contracted services and out-of-district services and tuitions that equaled $167,178.31. And then in our general expenses, I'll just touch again on the larger amounts. We paid Consolidated Communications for our telephone upgrade. That did come out of CRF, which was $22,207. Our propane bill with Dead River was almost $31,000. Our electricity with Eversource was $34,245. And then Goffstown Truck Center for regular ed transportation and athletic transportation was $208,069. We paid MST tuition, $113,726. So our general expenses equaled $475,926.19. And then finally, our food service, performance food service bill was $20,180.
Thank you, Carolyn. Does anybody have any questions, comments? All right, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. All right, moving on. Scott?
Sure. Tonight, you have a budget transfer of $5,000. This is more or less a notification, but it was from Mountain View Middle School facility supply line to an equipment line, and it was a need to purchase a small floor cleaning auto scrubber. And Randy requested that transfer so they can purchase that. Is to get into better into classrooms, to get through the doorways in certain classrooms and some of the areas where there is, with a large auto scrubber cannot get into. So I did already approve this, because that was within my authority, and this is more of a notification for you. The next topic, and the superintendent alluded to it, Manchester School of Technology provided us with a bill in early March. And it was basically a shore up of the 2023-2024 school year. And as the superintendent mentioned, only $9 million was allocated for vocational technology and vocational transportation. And because there were far greater needs, there are obviously more students that are pursuing vocational trades and training, and there's not enough funding. So they were only able to fund 57%. That's a scary number, scary percentage, especially in a climate right now where there are more students pursuing the trades. So that being said, we're going to have about a $217,000 shortfall for 23-24. Fortunately, we've experienced, better or more favorable financials with regard to the elections of health insurance. So we'll have those funds. We do have some monies available in vocational transportation, which will slide over to vocational tuition. But this is going to be an issue next year and the year after as well, so for budget purposes. So just, again, that was more informational. I wanted to provide you with just a couple of other things. At the next school board meeting, which is on April 21st, there will be a public hearing to start the meeting off, and that is to authorize expenditures from the Capital Reserve Fund for the Mountain View Cistern project, as well as the Mountain View core switches. And you'll also make a motion, or I would ask that you make a motion to ask the trustees to disperse funds from, I think we have 3 or 4 other projects that are completed, and that's when they're done is when we request reimbursement from the trustees. So you will have that. I did want to let the board know, although not on your agenda, and I'm not sure, Brian, if it was in your superintendent's report, but Charlie's Driving School notified the business office and the high school that they will no longer be providing driver's ed services. I believe they're doing it. They're going to continue on through 2025, but that is that notification. Again, they alerted us a couple of weeks ago with respect to that. And then last but not least, I wanted to let the board know that although you did approve some E-rate projects, E-rate is a federal program whereby school districts can apply for reimbursements for connectivity-related projects. You did authorize the firewall, and unfortunately, that firewall exceeded what would have been Goffstown's allocation for E-rate. And because this is a $100,000 project and we want to get 50% reimbursement, we're going to defer that till next year. So that made abundant sense. If we did not do that, we would have been lucky to get 10 or 15,000 in reimbursement versus 50. So we're going to put that off one more year. The service for the firewall ends June 30th of 2026, so the timing is not awful. Lastly, we are closing out that EMC project, and I wanted to let the board know that we received, hold on, I put it in your packets, a total of, it was over $500,000. We received $543,235 in energy rebates, which reduced the cost of the project. EMC initially projected on the high end $500,000, and EMC, they were able to exceed that. So that is good news. So we will have our first payment in July 15th of this year, and we will be receiving a credit of well over $225,000 towards that first year's payment in July. So that's good news. We don't get a lot of good news, but that was good news. And that's it. I'm going to pass the manifest down. If you could sign it and then swing it back.
All right, thank you, Scott. All right, moving on, Budget Committee, Jared?
Meeting on April 15th at 6 p.m.
Here at the library?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. C&E, Ginny?
We have a meeting on April 14th at 7 p.m. at the SAU.
All right, thank you, Ginny. P&C, Retta?
PNC met this evening before the meeting, and we talked about a number of things, including the website. We'll have more updates later on that. However, a few items that need need to be acknowledged and discussed. Volunteer Appreciation Week begins April 21st. In the past, we've done a number of things, but we're looking at creating something to put out on social media on the school website. So we'll have something for our next meeting about that. And then Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week is the first week in May. And I just wanted to gauge interest. Last year, we did a video to share with all the faculty and staff, and I'm curious to know if people are interested in doing that again. What it entails, especially for the new board members. Others may have blanked it out of their memory. This is a very, very short video, no more than a couple minutes. But each of the board members comes in and just does a quick 30-second blurb, and there's some images that are in there. We also do our traditional, we'll be doing our traditional breakfast at each of the schools. So before I engage GTV, I just want to make sure people are interested and available to do recordings.
And if they are, when do they need to let you know by?
What I'll do after I get the details, it's really easy. You schedule what time works for you, and GTV has great evening hours and daytime hours, so I'll send that information out, and you would just book your own time.
Okay, and it has to be done by when?
Let's see, I would say by the end of the month, end of April.
Everybody hear that?
What was the due date?
By the end of the month? Or by end of April?
End of the month. And, yeah, and sooner if you can.
Yeah.
And then just a reminder that we do have the retreat on June 16th at St. A's from 3 to 6, so get that into your calendar. More information coming soon on that, but if you do have ideas, now would be a good time to share them so we can get that onto the agenda. And our next meeting is May 5th.
Great, thank you, Rita.
At the library.
And it's at 6, 6:30?
At 6 o'clock.
6, okay. All right, policy review, Shane.
Policy review will be meeting on April 14th, 2025 at 5:30 PM at the SAU office. That is next Monday. And welcome to Laura, our new policy member. And also, I believe, Nicole from New Boston. So,
Yes.
welcome, everyone.
Yes. She's all the way down there.
You're down there somewhere.
All right, Technology Committee, who's reporting out for that? Jack, do you have anything? Or Rita?
Rita at the last.
Yeah, I can report out. We haven't met, I don't think we met since
the last meeting, right.
Our last meeting, so there's nothing to report.
Okay.
Our next meeting is on 5/7 at 4 PM at the SAU.
Okay. All right, so the SAU board meeting is April 10th at 6 PM at the SAU. If for some reason you can't attend, please let myself or Denise know. And then moving on to superintendent's report. Brian?
Thank you. Just a few updates for the board. We will hold new school board member orientation on Thursday prior to our SAU board meeting at 5:30. So I think at this point, I think that works for our new members, so hopefully we'll be able to pull that off. I wanted the school board to be aware that all public schools in the country have received a letter from the United States Education Department requiring the superintendent to sign off on compliance with Title VI anti-discrimination obligations in order to continue receiving federal funds. I understand that there's a court challenge already questioning the legality of this. I've heard some superintendents that are not comfortable signing off on this. I wanted to let you know I've already signed it and sent it in. So we're fully compliant with Title VI. There are no issues, so I went ahead and did that. So there could be more to come, but at this point, Goffstown and New Boston are all set with that. Goffstown Parents in Action, you'll recall from last year, the citizen petition warrant article to raise $13,000 for the supplemental door locks. The Goffstown Parents in Action have raised around $4,000 to complete the installation of the night lock project. So I wanted to thank Goffstown Parents in Action, and specifically to Sarah Tollefson and Ryan Bump, who have spearheaded that. So we'll be able to finish that project now that they've raised those additional funds. So I wanted to thank them for that. And this evening, the board heard public comment with respect to foreign exchange students. I would say duly noted, and we will be discussing that more as a board forthcoming. So I would stop there and ask if I'm trying to give an abbreviated report because we're a little long already and we have a pretty long agenda still, plus non-public. But anything that I can further elaborate, or Mrs. Kohler, Mr. Gross, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any hands. I think we're good. We can move on.
Thank you.
All right, old business, Shane.
All right, so we have a handful of policies here that are up for adoption this evening. The first one is policy ACA, which is relative to discrimination and harassment grievance procedure. So if no one has any questions, we can entertain a motion on that.
Okay. Do I have a motion for ACA?
Motion to approve ACA is presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Retta. Caroline, motion, and Retta, second. Go ahead. Oh, right, we're not discussing it. We already did that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We are unanimous.
All right, thank you, Heather. The next, God, I almost said Bill. The next policy is policy ACE, which is relative to the procedural safeguards, non-discrimination on the basis of disability. If there are no comments or questions on that, we can entertain a motion for that as well.
Motion to approve ACE as presented.
Thank you, Caroline. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Retta, that was you?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous. Go ahead, Shane.
All right, the next policy is policy ACF, which is relative to food and nutrition services, anti-discrimination, and civil rights. Again, if there's no conversation or policy around that, then we can entertain a motion.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ACF as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Retta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous. Go ahead, Shane.
The next one is policy ACN, which is relative to nursing mother accommodations.
Motion to approve ACN as presented.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Jack.
Ooh, all right.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous.
All right, the next one is GBAM or GBAM, which is relative to the accommodation of pregnancy and related medical conditions. Again, if there's no conversation or questions, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve GBAM as presented.
All right, do I have a second?
Second it again.
By Jack.
Change it on.
Change it up. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous.
And last but certainly not least is BEDG and BEDGR, which is relative to meeting minutes, access to minutes, and public records. If there is no discussion or questions on this, we will entertain a motion.
All right.
Motion to approve BEDG and BEDGR as presented.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Jack. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We're unanimous.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shane. All right, so at the last meeting, we discussed the calendar, which I don't have in my packet. We sent it to New Boston, correct, Brian? For the
Correct.
last
New
meeting?
Boston adopted it.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions or comments, we can do that now. If not, then we'll entertain a motion to accept this. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about December 23rd and the proposed calendar. Is that proposed as a half-day or a full day in what we are to vote on?
It was proposed as a full day, correct?
Correct.
We changed it at the last meeting.
Yeah, so in further thinking through that, I think given the way the calendar lies, it's a lot for teachers to go for a full day on December 20th, all the way through December 23rd. I just know it's one of the most chaotic days. Those leading up to the holidays are the most chaotic days for those elementary school teachers. So I think, though I agree that, kids being in school for the full day and having that sense of routine is beneficial for their learning, I think that with it being that close to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it's a lot to have a full school day on the 23rd. So just wanted to add that and see if we could amend back to the half-day.
Half or early, half day or early release?
Early release.
Okay.
Early release. So New Boston already approved.
Correct.
What does everybody think? I mean, they already approved it, so if we changed it, they'd have to go back through it.
And I just wanted to bring up the conversation we had last time, and I think the teacher rep may have weighed in on that, was that making it a half-day makes it complicated for people who, may be working that day, having to be home for the kids. I mean, I'm just saying that's what the conversation is, so we would be going back on that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I just think that for teachers in particular, I think that's hard to go that late, up to the holidays, I think. In general, I would agree with that, but I think just given where the days lie, I think it's.
Go ahead, Retta.
I'm wondering, we don't have our teacher rep here right now, but I'm wondering if anyone ever talks with the administration. I mean, I'm not representing any teachers here,
Right.
so I would want to know what the teachers think. Or are they indifferent? They'll
I think you'd get a mixed bag from teachers. So I think teachers always appreciate an early release day as a general statement, but I think teachers would say what's best for kids. So I happen to be somebody who believes that we need a longer school day, a longer school year. I think our kids in Goffstown and the United States need to be in school more time, not less time. So I would definitely support a full school day for that day. It's tricky that New Boston has already set their calendar. It's not entirely impossible, so New Boston dismisses at 2:10. If we did an early dismissal, it could be problematic, just thinking about a multi-tiered bus run. But we would do our best to make it work if that was the board's direction.
Did New Boston have any concerns? Did they hear from any teachers?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not.
All right, so Laura.
So we've, for many years now, we've had that as an early release
an early
day.
release, yeah.
So I think if we did it this year not as an early release day, I think that for next year, we could evaluate that and see how it goes. I think the people who send their kids to school will appreciate it being a full day, because I think early release days are hard for families
Okay.
in general.
All right, so there is a full day right now for the 23rd, unless somebody wants to make a motion to change it or make a motion to accept the calendar, since New Boston has already accepted that. So I need a motion of some sort from someone.
I'll make a motion to adopt the calendar as is right now. Sorry, Laura.
All right, so Vanessa, as is, meaning we're keeping the 23rd as a full day.
23rd of December, full day. Don't forget, we have that extra bonus day off now before Thanksgiving. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, and Jared, you second it? All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention? So we have one no, rest yes. Motion passed. All right, update on Senate Bill 297. Scott, Brian?
Mr. Gross?
All right, as the superintendent mentioned, the town administrator, assistant town administrator, our HR director, superintendent, myself, we met with our state reps. Doug Totten was also there, our assistant BA. And we talked about the implications of Senate Bill 297, which is in regard to insurance risk pools. And I thought we had a very productive conversation with our state reps. As they mentioned this evening, there are many, many bills. As a matter of fact, there's over 1,000 bills, and for them to have intimate knowledge of all these is very unrealistic. They were very appreciative of our detailed explanation of the implications of that bill with respect to our 1,000-plus employees and retirees who would be impacted by that legislation. So at this point, it's going to be, it passed the Senate, and it's going to the House Commerce Committee. And with that, I believe that there will be people, including myself and others, who will testify at that House Commerce Committee meeting, and hopefully, maybe some of you might also wish to either attend or to provide written testimony. That being said, there is a crossover right now, and those bills will, I would assume that that bill would probably go before a hearing in the next couple of weeks. So other than that, we're in a waiting period. And once we know when that hearing is, we'll pass that along to you.
Okay.
One thing to add to what Mr. Gross shared, though, is we receive our health insurance for all of our bargaining units through Health Trust, and Health Trust has indicated that if this bill passes, that they will be closing their doors. So this has very significant implications for all of our employees, for our 4 union contracts between Goffstown and New Boston. So we think that we have a lot of questions on this bill. Mrs. McGrath, our HR director, has sent a number of questions to Health Trust, asking questions, very detailed questions about some of their decision-making based on the modeling that they have. In the correspondence folder, you saw the questions that Mr. Gross asked to the Secretary of State. So I think we're doing a good job representing, advocating for both our employees as well as our taxpayers in Goffstown and New Boston. So we are very concerned about this bill, not the least of which because they've indicated that they will close. So we would need to open up our bargaining units. We would have to have extensive negotiations regarding health insurance. So there's a lot to unpack here. So we do hope that that this bill will be killed in some form.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Scott. All right, so before we move on to the next one, I realized that the subcommittee assignments didn't get put on the agenda. So just real quick, because we do need to make a motion, I want to just bring attention to a couple of things. So I tried to stick with everybody's wishes. Thank you all for getting them to me. 2 things per a request from our IT director, Stephen Bourget. He has asked that there no longer be a technology committee, that he would come to the board and give us updates. This was, so we took it off because this was a request from the admin. So the 3 board members that were on it, I took you off.
That works for me because 4 o'clock on Wednesdays isn't good.
All right, and then the second is CIP. Vanessa, you had asked to be on it. What I did, Jack has done it before, and I have you as an alternate, which means you will receive all the information Jack receives. I highly encourage you to go to the meetings with him because these are pretty involved. There's presentations. They work in the summer. And if Jack can't be there, you can jump in, and he would be a great teacher for you. And then next year, we can switch roles. So that's why I put you as the alternate.
You got it. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Go ahead.
So Heather, one thing I wanted to share, and I was going to share this at the SAU board meeting on Thursday. The New Boston School Board has asked if they could have representation on a few of the Goffstown subcommittees that they don't currently have members attending.
Okay.
So I did let New Boston members know that I would raise that at the SAU board meeting, but now might be a more appropriate time.
Okay.
So in the past, it's been a number of years, but we have had New Boston members attend Mr. Gross's administration and finance meeting, the A&F meeting. In the past, New Boston members have attended the planning and communications meeting.
Yeah.
So I did want to raise this for the board's consideration that New Boston is asking if they might have seats on all subcommittees.
Yeah, they always did.
They always have in the past.
But I know A&F, we would meet like 15 minutes and it was too far, but I'm okay with putting them on it. Is everybody okay? So it'd be A&F and then C&E? Oh, P&C. Okay,
I think those are the only 2
because they're on the rest of them.
that don't currently have New Boston.
If I could just share with the PNC, we did have a New Boston rep, but it ends up being very much like Goffstown centric,
Right.
so it's absolutely
Yeah.
no problem. I think they probably felt that it.
Yeah, and A&F, they've always been welcome. So yeah, if you can get names so we can update this list.
Will do.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
All right, so if everybody's good with what they see and what committees I put them on, I'll need a motion to approve it.
Do we need to wait until New Boston, or?
Oh, to add?
No,
Well, no,
I
'cause
think
we gotta-
if there's general consensus that they're welcome, I'm happy to
Yeah.
share that.
And they
They'll
always had a
appreciate that.
seat.
Yeah, no problem, just checking procedure.
Yep.
Thank you, Shane. All right,
Motion to approve the Goffstown Subcommittee assignments as presented.
thank you, Caroline.
I'll
Do it
second.
By Shane. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous, so these committees are in effect now. All right, so the next one is revisiting the citizen petition warrant article. I know we talked about it quite a bit last time. I know some people wanted to think, so we need to discuss some more tonight. Anybody want to start?
I'll start.
Go ahead, Shane.
So throughout this entire process, I have expressed my opposition for mostly privacy reasons. But as I also mentioned, the voters of Goffstown voted for this, and I am one person. And I believe that the greater number of people who voted for it is the way I should vote on this, so I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Shane.
Welcome.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
I'll just say I have similar thoughts as Shane for privacy and safety reasons of individuals, but very similar. I would be in support of it based off of the voters.
Correct. Now, I know we did talk about names, and to cross them out would cost, or not cost, but take more time. Isn't that correct, Scott? So if we did the check registries on the website, it would be names of parents, teachers, staff, whatever.
Yep.
We wrote the check out to.
Doesn't say the purpose, and it'll just say the name of the entity, the individual or the business entity, and the amount, and that's it.
Yeah, because it would be exactly like the test version you gave us last meeting.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
again, I have concerns,
So
but I will
do
vote
I.
for it. But I will vote for it.
Yeah, I definitely have concerns.
So do I, and so there will be private names on there, even not businesses, or?
Yeah, if they get a check.
If there are individuals to whom we have issued a check, whether it be a mileage reimbursement, a professional development, those names would appear. And just so you know, like from a right-to-know perspective, we would have to provide it if that were the case anyway. There's nothing in there in terms of, and I shared with you, one of the issues with putting in like a memo line is the memo line, does have more information, which would be more revealing in terms of what that was. And so I think that's a fair compromise in a way.
Yep, taking the memo out. Has anybody come to you with concerns, Scott, that would have gotten a check written to them, say anything? No one's been.
Not in my 6.5 years of doing this,
Okay.
where.
Well, I mean,
we've never-
recently because of the.
We've never
warrant
posted, we've
article.
never posted it, before.
Right, but recently, since this is now a
No,
conversation,
no
no one's come to you.
no one's raised any objections.
Okay.
But again, it's not something that's out there. so.
Right, okay.
And would we, because this is a change, would we at least make some sort of statement? I suppose this is a statement right now, but they probably haven't thought about it or aren't concerned. They may not, they may not have known this change was happening, but when their name gets out there, it might be a different story.
Right. Anyone else on this end of the table? Go ahead, Jack.
Yes, my other one would be, so the manifest will go away, and then we'll just get the whole register, like what you put out? The manifest will be gone? We'll just switch over the website, or?
That's the board's decision. As I mentioned at the last meeting, Doug and I worked on a way to automate it in Excel. So the publication of the check register itself does not require a whole lot more work. So we could still do both, Jack?
Okay.
it was really the redactions that I think would be the most time-consuming going through each one.
Jenny, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm still concerned, but I'll go along with it, only because it was voted in. But I do want a stipulation in that the board is notified for any right to knows about the checks and any of the people who have had security breaches or criticisms of any of this information being in the public.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Anyone else down there? Questions, comments?
Nope.
Oh, Retta, go ahead.
I would like to.
Oh, sorry, Vanessa, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to say, I would like to just
Sorry, Retta.
put, I don't want to say put it to bed, but I do think it's time to listen to the voters and just put it out there so we can move on.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Respectfully.
Yes, go ahead, Retta.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the statement that was made earlier during public comment, because I was the one that said that people didn't know what they were voting for, because in the voter guide, we did not put a description of what this vote was about, where on the town side, they did. So it explained what it was and where the board was. So there was no description of why we were voting against it. So that was my comment. It wasn't about the actual warrant article.
All right, so we've discussed, is there a motion from someone to accept or not?
I would like to make a motion to accept the warrant article as is, right? And make the check register public for the school board
On the website.
on the website.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. Is there a second?
May I ask for, as presented by the business, as the example, because that is important, because we are removing the memo line, we are removing the check number, and the check number is, in my opinion, it's very important to remove that for fraud purposes. All the other information, the payee and the amount, that's fine, but the check number is what presents fraud challenges.
Okay,
So,
you're able to amend that, Vanessa?
I will amend it to remove the check number and memo.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Do I have a second? Oh, what, Denise?
You said for the school board register, it's the school district, can I just change it?
Oh, I'm sorry, yep, thank you. Amend it, school district. It's my first motion.
It's all right. We all fumble.
I
Don't
got
worry
the
about
first
it.
motion sweats over here. All right.
Yeah, you did good.
We're getting there, Brian,
You're
we're getting there.
All right, so I have a motion from Vanessa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Caroline. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we are unanimous. All right, so moving on to staffing. Do you have our staffing sheets?
I do, so I'm going to send them down, and I'll pause while they're making their way down to you. So we have a few notifications, no action required of the board. We have a long-term substitute. We have a number of teacher assignment changes for next year, as well as a track change. So no further action required from the board on those notifications. For your approval, we have 3 non-renewals. These were one-year positions. So I would imagine we would do these in batches, so I'll stop after
Yeah.
each section.
All right, I'll wait for everybody to get.
So one of the 3 names is Mrs. Sinclair, who has retired multiple times.
Is
And
she
I
really
do hope to,
retired?
I do hope to beg her to come back and be another half-time teacher next year.
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
some of these you might see again.
All right, so we're going to start with teacher non-renewals. I'll need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the teacher non-renewals as presented.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it, Vanessa.
Vanessa, thank you, Vanessa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous, okay?
Okay, the next batch is we have a teacher resignation, and this is effective April 4th.
Okay. All right, I'll need a motion for the one teacher resignation effective April 4th.
Motion to approve the teacher resignation.
I'll second that one, too.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, okay, we're unanimous. The next one?
Next batch is, these are resignations effective at the end of this school year, so many thanks to these teachers and best wishes.
Wow. All right, I'll need a motion for the resignations effective June 30th.
Motion to accept the teacher resignations effective June 30th.
Thank you, Caroline. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Vanessa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. All
So
right.
the next batch is for teacher nominations. We have 4 new hires. The first one, I would again like to acknowledge the wonderful Lisa Johnson, who will be retiring as our assistant principal at Maple Ave, and we will be hiring as a part-time speech and language pathologist. And the other 3 are 3 new teachers, new to us. And then on, in your packet, you have the big list of all the other teacher nominations. So this goes along with it. So you have teacher nominations of these 4 individuals, these new positions, as well as the entire list.
All right, so I'll need a motion for the teacher nominations.
I'll make him, oh, go ahead.
No.
No, go ahead, no, go. You sure? Go.
Yes.
Go.
All right,
Motion
Shane.
to approve. Go ahead.
Shane.
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher nominations as presented, including the large list.
And Caroline will second.
Yes,
All right.
yes, I will second.
Did you get that, Denise? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. All right, leave of absence.
Next, we have a leave of absence. So I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but if you look at your next page, you're going to see a nomination for Janine Cassavant as the new Dean of Students at Goffstown High School. She will be taking a 1-year leave of absence from her current teaching position. So we would be asking for the approval of a leave of absence for Janine Cassavant for 1 year.
All right.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
Brian, quick question. Does this mean she only plans to take the position for 1 year, or?
I think I'd probably be more comfortable having a more in-depth conversation in non-public, but I think being new to administration, I think she wants to make sure that it's a good fit for her, and she loves to teach, and she's an excellent teacher, so I'm in support of her request. I told her I don't think she needs it, and I think that she's going to do terrific and will want to be in this role, but this is kind of an escape clause that if it's not a good fit for her, that she would have her position to go back into.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Shane. So I'll need a motion for the teacher leave of absence.
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher leave of absence as presented.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. Do I need a second?
I'll second.
By Ginny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous.
Oh, and I just want to clarify, Brian, I know you said it was on the next page, but we approved her last
We
meeting.
approved, yeah, Mrs. McGrath
Yeah.
was sending that message to me telepathically
Yes.
that we did it last meeting.
Yep. All right, teacher request for sabbatical.
So we have one request. This is the first sabbatical request that I have seen in my many years here. So Jason Shea has been, received the very prestigious sabbatical for an entire year through the, is it the Krista McAuliffe Foundation? So Jason will be developing lessons that will be used across the state that incorporate elements of building thinking classrooms, which is an instructional approach used in mathematics and other subject areas. He'll be doing some work in that area. There is a further discussion that I need to have with the board in non-public regarding this. So I would recommend that we hold the request for sabbatical until after non-public.
Okay.
So if we hold that one, and then administrator retirement, you can accept that now. That's Mrs.
Okay.
Johnson from the assistant principal position.
All right, so I'll need a motion for the retirement for the admin.
I'll make a motion to approve the administrator retirement as presented.
Thank you, Jane. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Jack. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, Abstaining, we're unanimous. All right, we have admin nominations.
Yeah, so what we'll do is admin nominations, as well as facilities nominations and supervisor nominations, we will hold until after non-public. We will discuss compensation on all of those contracts with the board in non-public.
Okay.
So your next batch is support staff specialist. Oh, no, same story with
thing.
them.
Yep.
So we'll jump right down
To
to
the
the new co-curricular for
Co-curricular
spring. So these are all of our fall athletics. And please don't make me read this
And
entire list.
anything for the new members, anything with an N is their new.
So so there aren't a lot of news, and a couple of the ones that are new have coached at other levels. So for example, Paul Matatal has coached for us, but JV lacrosse is a new role for him. He's coached in the past. But I did want to show and point out one volunteer. Mr. Timothy Grisone is working as a softball volunteer this spring. So our new associate principal, who will replace Mr. McBride, is volunteering as a coach for us this spring. I just wanted to highlight that.
Nice. All right, I'll need a motion for the co-curricular nominations.
Make a motion to approve the co-curricular nominations
Thank you.
as presented.
Thank you, Jack. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Vanessa, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. And is that it?
That's it. I did want to highlight a couple of things that are on the very bottom of the staffing sheet under other. So we don't have to, actually, this one I think you can just, would be an informational. So we wanted to let you know that we have a current math position here at Goffstown High School, and we're going to post, the board will recall when we discussed new courses, including logic and rhetoric, that the board approved. We discussed that batch of courses for logic and rhetoric could fall under English, it could fall under social studies, it could fall under mathematics. I wanted to let you know that we're going to use a current math position to post for the logic sections, as well as extended learning opportunities for students. So we're going to do that posting, and I just wanted the board to be aware that that's currently a math position that we're going to be using. The second other can be a discussion in non-public session, but I wanted the board and the public to be aware of my recommendation to take the current Maple Avenue assistant principal and change that into a special education facilitator position for next year. And we'll talk about reasons for that in non-public. That'll save a little bit of money, and the days will be slightly less. So I think that we'll hear more about that in non-public.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, is there other business that may come before the meeting? And we also have the three things. Yes, and we have that. You see, it's on there. All right, three things.
Okay, I've been slacking, so it's up to you guys.
I'd like to nominate the Maple Ave
Yeah.
arts presentation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're all great.
I would say number two, you had your senator and all your state
Yeah, our
reps.
state reps and our senator.
Number 3 was supposed to be about our, the revamping of the website that we didn't talk about.
Oh, no, we can't. What I found is if we didn't speak at least a minute on it, it can't,
Okay.
because we have to link to something.
Maybe the calendar would be a good one?
Yeah, the school
The calendar,
calendar,
yeah.
the approving of the school calendar.
And will that be posted
Mrs. Moran said, oh, yes.
by the end of the week?
By the end of the night.
Before she leaves?
I would imagine tomorrow. Tomorrow.
All right, so is everybody good with the three things? All right, so Brian,
So we're going to go into non-public under 91A32A to
A.
discuss compensation.
all right, any other thing, anybody else have anything before we go into non-public? No? All right, so I'll need a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32A.
So moved.
Okay. That was Jack?
That was
It
Jared.
was Jared?
He was faster than me.
Jared motion, Shane seconded. And I'll do a roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, did you guys, yes?
Yeah.
All right, we are in non-public, and we're going to go down to the conference room.
So, I found out